Asia, good evening America. You're watching World DNA with me, Raisha Sehgal. On the show today, polls have opened in Sri Lanka. A total of 38 contestants are running for the president's post. Who are the top contenders? What are the key issues? And how are the Sri Lankan elections different this time around? We will be tracking all of that on the show today. But first, a quick check on the headlines. Voting begins in Sri Lanka for its next president after the 2022 economic meltdown. Incumbent President Ranil Wickremesinghe is being challenged by JVP's Anura Kumara Dissanayake and SJB's Sajith Premadasa in the polls. Prime Minister Narendra Modi departs for a 3-day visit to the US to attend the Quad Summit. Will also address the United Nations General Assembly and interact with the Indian diaspora. Minority groups hold demonstrations in Dhaka with 8-point demands, including extension of Durga Puja holiday and prosecution of people involved in communal violence across Bangladesh. Lebanon's Hezbollah group says its top commander Ibrahim Aqil has been killed in Israeli strike on Beirut. Lebanese officials say the attack left 14 dead and dozens wounded. Russian forces launched 3 strikes on Ukraine's second-largest city of Kharkiv, injuring 15 people, including 3 children. City mayor says strikes hit 3 different districts. With more than a month to go before the US presidential polls, some Americans line up to cast their ballots. Early in-person voting kicks off in states of Virginia, South Dakota and Minnesota. Imran Khan's Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf gets permission to hold a rally in Lahore today. Deputy Commissioner issues no objection certificate with 43 conditions, including a time limit from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola says any changes regarding football's increasing fixture demands must be led by the players. Many footballers have complained about packed schedule. Our top focus on World DNA, Sri Lanka votes for its next president today after the 2022 economic meltdown. The voting across the country's 13,000 polling stations will close at 4 p.m. local time. Vote count is expected to start at 9:30 p.m. About 17 million of Sri Lanka's 22 million people are eligible to cast their vote today. The election results will be declared on Sunday. A total of 38 contestants are vying to win the top executive post in the South Asian nation. Incumbent President Ranil Wickremesinghe is running for re-election as an independent contestant, building on the success of his efforts to steer Sri Lanka out of the 2022 economic meltdown, which had triggered massive demonstrations and forced Gotabaya Rajapaksa to flee the country. Well, Wickremesinghe is being challenged by Anura Kumara Dissanayake from the JVP party and Sajith Premadasa of the SJB party. Well, Sri Lanka's first past-the-post system allows voters to cast 3 votes for their chosen contestants, with the contestant securing 50% of the votes or more declared as the winner. Meanwhile, a total of 116 representatives from various international election observation organizations have arrived in Sri Lanka to monitor the upcoming polls. Well, Sri Lanka's election procedure is complicated, and at a time when there is no front runner, the election could perhaps result with no clear winner. So what happens then? In our next report, my colleague Ananya Datta explains.
Sri Lanka's presidential elections follow a unique process. Designed in 1981, voters participate in a limited ranked voting system, which basically means that they can express up to 3 preferences for the president. Let's break that down for you. Imagine you're a voter and you have head out on election day. Now this year there are record 39 candidates. But to keep it simple, let's consider a hypothetical situation with just 5 candidates: A, B, C, D and E. According to the rule, you can have 3 preferences. Let's say your first preference is A, second is B, and third is C. Once all votes are counted and A gets over 50% of the votes, she or he is the clear winner. But there can also be another situation where no candidate gets over 50% of votes immediately. In that case, all candidates except the 2 with the highest number of votes are eliminated. And after this, the second and third preferences from the eliminated candidates are redistributed. So in our hypothetical situation, all votes of B, D and E will be transferred to A and C. And the process will continue until one of the 2 candidates secures an outright majority. What's interesting is that in practice, this system has rarely been used in Sri Lanka. So much so that many citizens are unaware that they can rank multiple candidates. The reason is that since the start of elections, only one candidate from either major parties have become a clear winner. This time it might be different. More than 17 million people are eligible to vote. The results are expected within a day of voting, and the winner must be sworn in within 2 weeks.
And for more on this, our correspondent Dasunia Thoda has sent us this report from Colombo. Take a look.
Polling commenced here in Sri Lanka as of 7 a.m. today, where Sri Lankans across the island will be heading to over 13,000 polls to elect the country's 9th executive president. This is a pivotal election in Sri Lanka, provided that it is the first major election following Sri Lanka's spiraling economic crisis, which has since been on the recovery mode. A few frontrunners have emerged, key of them being President Ranil Wickremesinghe, leader of the opposition and leader of the Samagi Jana Balawegaya, Sajith Premadasa, as well as the leader of the National People's Power Movement, Anura Kumara Disanayake. All eyes will be on this election, both locally and globally, due to the significance and the impact this election will have locally as well as regionally. Stay with WION as we will be bringing you the very latest. Reporting from Colombo, I'm Dasunia Thoda.
Well, let's now shift our focus to the upcoming US elections. Another day of campaigning by both presidential contestants saw strong sentiments reflecting in statements by Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Well, on Thursday, Harris addressed the issue of gun violence in America as she sat down for a campaign event with TV host Oprah Winfrey. Harris walked a tightrope while speaking on gun laws, saying that she will not take away anyone's guns, but wants a ban on assault rifles and stricter background checks.
I think for far too long on the issue of gun violence, some people have been pushing a really false choice. to suggest you're either in favor of the Second Amendment or you want to take everyone's guns away. I'm in favor of the Second Amendment, and I'm in favor of assault weapons bans, universal background checks, red flag laws. And these are just common sense.
Meanwhile, in the red camp, presidential nominee Donald Trump was trying to galvanize Jewish support ahead of the November 5th elections. Trump went so far as to say that Israel will be eradicated if he loses the election and that Jewish people will be responsible for his loss.
Israel, in my opinion, the Jewish people would have a lot to do with the loss. If I'm at 40%, if I'm at 4%, think of it, that means 60% are voting for Kamala, who in particular is a bad Democrat. The Democrats are bad to Israel, very bad. They'll never change because they have a section of their party now which has become amazingly and quickly very powerful vote-wise. I mean, Chuck Schumer is a Palestinian.
Well, as the battle heats up and both the sides scramble to rake in support, there is one community of voters that is leaning towards a third presidential contestant. According to a poll in late August, Arab American and Muslim voters are increasingly leaning towards Green Party contestant Jill Stein. The poll conducted in Battleground, Michigan reveals that 40% of the Arab and Muslim voter base prefer Jill, while 18% backed Trump. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris is trailing at 12%. But this survey was before the September 10th presidential debate. It remains to be seen right now as to how much of an influence world issues bear on the upcoming elections. Moving on, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has departed for a 3-day visit to the United States. During his visit, Prime Minister Modi will attend the Quad Leaders Summit, address the Summit of the Future at the UNGA and also interact with the Indian diaspora. Prime Minister Modi will take part in the 6th Quad Leaders Summit in Wilmington, Delaware, which is being hosted by US President Joe Biden in his hometown on September 21st. India will be hosting the Quad Leaders Summit in 2025. At the summit, India, Australia, Japan and the US, they come together to support an open, free and inclusive Indo-Pacific that is prosperous and resilient. The leaders will review the progress achieved by the Quad over the past year and set the agenda for the year ahead to help the countries of the Indo-Pacific region. During his US visit, Prime Minister Modi will also address Summit of the Future at the UNGA on September 23rd. The theme of the summit is multilateral solutions for a better tomorrow. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has called this a once-in-a-lifetime UN summit. Well, on the sidelines of the summit, Prime Minister Modi will also hold bilateral talks with several world leaders and also discuss issues of mutual interest. A day before, the Prime Minister will address a gathering of the Indian community on September 22nd in New York. He will be interacting with CEOs of leading US-based companies to strengthen cooperation in AI, quantum computing, semiconductors and biotechnology. Well, India and the US have a comprehensive global strategic partnership. India has the largest number of military exercises with the US, which are growing in scale and complexity. The US is also India's largest trading partner. For more on the upcoming Quad Summit, our correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report from New York.
The White House says the Quad's Leaders Summit aims to advance strategic ties and a shared vision for a free and open Indo-Pacific region. Discussions will center around key areas like security, climate action, cutting-edge technology, as well as cybersecurity and, of course, maritime security. The State Department in a briefing said that we can also expect a lot of ambitious announcements coming out of this meeting, demonstrating the Quad's commitment to delivering tangible benefits to the region. This not only includes strengthening ties and cooperation on the health system, but also promoting clean energy and fostering innovation in AI as well as space. Now, regarding why President Biden decided to host this meeting in Delaware, the White House says it is to add a personal touch to this final meeting of his administration of Quad leaders. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
Moving on, as fears of a wider conflict looms over West Asia, Israel carried out strikes in Lebanese capital Beirut, targeting top Hezbollah commander Ibrahim Aqil and other senior figures of the Iran-backed group.
هاي هلا في غاز انتبهوا.
Multiple missiles slammed into a building in the Dhaya district, triggering an explosion that tore into the lower levels as Aqil met with other commanders inside the building. However, it is not clear if Aqil was killed in the strike that killed at least 14 people. However, Hezbollah later confirmed Aqil's death in a statement, calling him one of its top leaders. The group, however, did not provide details of how he died. This is the second time in less than 2 months that Israel has targeted a leading Hezbollah commander in Beirut. Before Aqil in July, Fuad Shukra was killed in an Israeli strike. Meanwhile, Lebanese Prime Minister said that the attack proved again that Israel does not value any human, legal or moral values. On the other hand, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that Israel's goals were clear and its actions spoke for themselves. Also, Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant highlighted the sequence of actions in the new phase of war on the border, saying that it will continue until their goal is achieved, which is the safe return of the residents of the north to their homes. Meanwhile, in his first address on the situation, U.S. President Joe Biden said he was working on allowing people to return to their homes on the Israel-Lebanon border.
To try to do what we tried from the beginning, to make sure that both the people in northern Israel as well as southern Lebanon are able to go back to their homes and go back safely. And the Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, our whole team is working in the intelligence community, try to get that done. We're going to keep at it till we get it done, but we've got a way to go.
White House National Security spokesperson John Kirby said that he was not aware of Israel giving the U.S. prior notice about the Beirut strike.
We'll let the IDF speak to their operations. I am certainly not aware of any pre-notification of those strikes. And that, of course, as you know, is not atypical.
The escalation came as Israel awaited the revenge promised by Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah for this week's mass bombing attack on pagers and walkie-talkies belonging to the group's members. While most of the rockets launched from Lebanon were intercepted by the Israeli defenses, at least one rocket made it through the Iron Dome and was seen twisted up after it landed and exploded on a road on Friday. Well, from one war front to another, one of Russian President Vladimir Putin's aide has warned that its nuclear-capable weapons can demolish the European capitals in minutes. Our next report explains how the tensions are peaking. Take a look.
under the relentless pounding by Russia, Ukraine's energy infrastructure is in tatters. And a painful winter is looming again for Ukrainians. To change the tide of the war, President Zelensky is making feverish appeals to allow it to hit Russia with long-range Western weapons. President Putin has made it clear that if that happens, NATO will be in its direct line of fire. The chairman of Russia's State Duma has now gone a step further, warning of a nuclear response. Volodin says the weapon, which Putin has called invincible, can strike Strasbourg in just over 3 minutes. The city in France is the seat of the European Parliament. The Kremlin's threat centers around the deployment of its Satan II nuclear-capable missiles, a powerful weapon that could dramatically shift the balance in the ongoing conflict. This intercontinental ballistic missile is one of the most popular in the world, capable of carrying multiple nuclear warheads and hitting targets across vast distances. Weighing over 200 tons, the missile can evade anti-missile defense systems. There is growing pressure from Ukraine for Western allies to provide advanced long-range missiles like the US ATACMS and British Storm Shadows. The Ukrainian president has long argued that such weapons are essential to cripple Russia's military operations. However, the potential for these weapons to strike deep inside Russia has reignited fears of a broader conflict and potential nuclear escalation. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Let's now take a quick look at what is happening in the world of entertainment and fashion. Singer Kylie Minogue has announced her world tour starting in Australia in 2025 before heading to Asia and the United Kingdom, with other countries set to be announced. Earlier this year, she won her second Grammy for Best Pop Dance Recording for hit single Padam Padam, and she was named as this year's Brits Global Icon. She added that it had been an exhilarating ride so far, and fans should get ready for a busy tour in the upcoming next few months as well. Will Ferrell and Harper Steele premiered the latest Netflix documentary, Will and Harper in Los Angeles. In this portrayal of friendship, transition and America, Will Ferrell and his close friends of 30 years decide to go on a cross-country road trip to explore a new chapter in their relationship. Will and Harper, they are now playing in theaters and hits Netflix on September 27th. Let's now take a look at what's making news in the world of sports. Well, Joel Embiid has signed a 3-year contract extension with the Philadelphia 67ers. The new deal will keep him at the NBA franchise through 2029. A 7-time NBA All-Star, Embiid and the 76ers agreed to a $193 million